In this video I'm going to show you how to make an ND3 version 2 work with an SKR Mini E3 version 3. So I never saw these problems coming when my ND3 V2 mainboard got the hot end thermistor circuit destroyed. So I decided to order a BigTreeTech Skr Mini E3 version 3 as I have good feeling for the BigTreeTech products, and I thought it was a drop-in replacement for the mainboard for the ND3 V2. The videos I found on the internet, like Chris Basement, they're using the original ND3 version 1, which has a different display than the version 2. And when you try to just connect the cables according to the instructions, you would just hear a loud beep, and that tells you that something is not working correct. So you need to buy or make a replacement cable in order to make the display work for the ND3 V2. So this ended up after receiving the BigTreeTech mainboard to be a 3-day problem. And the first problem was, how should I make a replacement cable? And the second problem was, how should I make the firmware work for this ND3 V2 display? Looking at different instructions found on the internet, you could find sketches like this showing the display plug and how it should be connected to the board socket on the display. And what confused me was that when I measured on the ribbon cable coming out of the ND3 V2, I found that the upper right one here had ground and the bottom right had 5 volts. And when looking at this sketch here, you found that the upper right here has 5 volts and not the opposite around. And looking here at this PCB markup, you see that you have the 5 volts on top and the ground on the bottom. And looking here again, you see the ground is on top, VCC on the bottom. Looking further at the instructions, I was even more confused because some instructions are using a ribbon cable like the original one from the ND3. And here you see a numbering from 1 to 10. And as you can see, when looking at the pinout, you see that pin 1 is supposed to be 5 volts and 2 ground. And when I measured, I saw that either 9 or 10 had voltage and ground. So that got me very confused. But I decided to make a ribbon cable according to the mirrored sketch. So as you can see, everything is mirrored here, like I said before. So here the board socket, this one, is corresponding well. So you have the ground on the top and the VCC on the bottom. And same thing on the display. So you have the 5 volts on the top and ground on the bottom. So I decided to make an extension cable for the ribbon cable sticking out of the ND3. And I ended up with this cable here. Here you can see the original ND3 ribbon cable. And here is just an old ribbon cable that I got and connected with some DuPont connectors, as you can see here on the back of the display. Compiling the firmware was also a big problem. And these are 2 instructions or 2 pages I found that was not working. So I found the instructions on Smith 3D that was using gyres with Marlin version 2.0.1. And this is not working because his instructions are using the F version of the microcontroller that is found in the version 2 of the E3 Mini, and not this one. And if you try to change the gyres, I was not able to configure it in order to compile it without bugs. So the second instructions I found was on the BigTreeTech GitHub, and that was actually for the E3 version 3 mainboard that I got with the microcontroller G0B1. And for this version I was not able to modify the code for Ender3 version 2 display, and I tried to change some of the pinouts according to the pinouts I found in different sections of code and on the BigTreeTech documentation. This is the Smith 3D webpage, which has a good instruction and where most of the sketches I'm using or referring to were found. So this is the sketch I was using to hook up my cable, and here are the instructions using the gyres setup and changing some settings. And this is the last sketch. And here is a lengthy discussion found on the BigTreeTech SKR Mini E3, which is very long and very confusing if you try to find a way out of this. And here is the BigTreeTech GitHub for this G0B1 version that I bought with the V3 version of the E3 Mini. What I found to be working really well without much of modification, I don't think any modification, was stock Marlin, the latest version. So by opening up Marlin and using this bug fix 2.0.x, which is the latest at the moment, and this comes without any example configs. So if you look into config here, you see that they moved the configurations to a separate repository. So you open this, you have different configs. So you need to download both of these, and you need to place the config files, which I will show later, into the Marlin folder. I think the only thing that you need to change is in the platform IO.ini file that opens up when you open up the folder into VS Code, is the default environments. So you change this to stm32G0B1RE_BTT, because the default one is for the Atmega microcontrollers, and if you try to compile, it will not work. The second thing you need to change is to go into the pins file for this version of the microcontroller that you're using in order to comment out for a custom cable that you're using. So you find this under Marlin source, pins, and your version of the microcontroller is the STM32G0, and here open this file. Under here you find a section which is asking for whether you're using the Devian E3 V2 or the Devian Marlin UI, which is configured into the configuration H. And the only thing you need to do is to define no_controller_custom_wiring_warning, or you could just comment out this line and then you save. And then in your configuration file that you replaced for the original ones. So that's it. Hope you found this video helpful. Now leave a thumbs up if you liked the video.